Well, good morning and welcome to our devotions this week. We are going to be looking at, the verses for this coming Sunday are Genesis 2:18 to 24, Psalm 8, Hebrews 1:1 to 4, and then in addition to that, chapter 2, 5 to 12, and then our gospel reading is Mark 10:13 to 16. And so those are the readings that we're going to have this weekend. So what do you guys think?
I'll take the easy one first. All of them were a little harder for me, but after I read the commentaries, they got even more difficult. But
That's supposed to make it better.
Yeah, well, and it complicates things. But Psalm 8 for me, in the part where it says, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers." The work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. What is mankind that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? And so I really like that part, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars. And I think about when we first moved up to where we live and we built our house there. And Mark and I were sitting out at the bonfire, and Mark used to teach astronomy, and he loves the stars, and he'd look up and he would say, "Oh, you just can't see the stars this good in town," and he was always in awe of that, and he would always say, "This is what," sometimes when people talk about scientists, they think that scientists don't have faith, that they go in a different route. And Mark always says that really a scientist has to look at the universe like that and look up and see the stars and know that something greater than us had to create that. And what that is, it's different for all people. But this verse reminded me of, and I see him often when we're outside looking at night, looking at those stars and the awe of creation. And that, and then in the rest of the verse, that everything was put under our feet to take care of. And, you look at the awesomeness of creation and what God gave us, and really the responsibility he gave us to take care of it. And that we should always appreciate that. And no matter, I think in one of the commentaries it was really well put that, when we're in a good season of life, when things are going well, we can look up at the sky and we can say, "Oh, what beauty and how blessed I am." But when it's the tougher seasons of our life, it's harder to look up. But that's maybe when we need to look up more to see the awesomeness and the beauty.
I set my lounger chair, I don't know if I told you this before, but about a week and a half ago, I could not sleep, and at midnight I went out. It was a beautiful night. I put my lounger chair out on the end of my deck where there is no roof over it, and I laid there for half an hour until the mosquitoes got me. But I was laid back and the stars were everywhere, and that's exactly what I was thinking was, wow, this is just amazing and beautiful, and God gave this to me to look at tonight.
Isn't it funny how, in creation, I look at the intricacy of creation, and I think to myself, how could we possibly ever have thought that we were the pinnacle of creation? I mean, when you look at how amazing it is, and we somehow took that, God put it under our feet to mean that we were, rather than a caretaker of this awesome, and part of this awesome creation that God made.
And that idea reflects back to the Genesis that we were talking about. Although the Genesis verse just talks about the creation of woman, but the same kind of thing.
Yes, definitely.
That really, as humans, aren't top.
No. I was telling them earlier, though, that if humans, how we have that tradition that, creation just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, better and better and better, and humans were at the top. But in this version of the creation story, woman is last. So she's like pinnacle of creation.
The best for last.
You got it.
The best for last. I like
But it's
that
not.
concept. Yeah, you might have some arguments with that theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the parts of Psalm 8 that I kind of focused in on was verse 2, out of the mouths of babes and infants, you have established strength because of your foes. And it just kind of batted home that God is looking at those that seem weaker, babies, infants, in the Genesis story, women, how people see them as weaker, and God is establishing strength for them and looking out for them. And verse 4 of Psalm 8, what is man that you were mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you cared for him, and how he brought the Son of Man to the earth and put all things under his feet for a short time. That he let Jesus walk the earth in human form to bring us his glory. And how that is kind of foretold in Psalms,
Right.
even though it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And even what you said before, the verse 2, through the mouths of babes, and that kind of goes even with Mark, where it talks about Jesus holding the children, and that, at the time, children were looked at as the lowest. They were with much reverence. But here he was holding them and saying, that God is always with them. Just that, yes. So it says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder sometimes what it is about the human being that we need to put things in hierarchical order. I don't know why we feel the need to do that, rather than saying all is precious. And
Well, I feel like that started with Eve. Well, wait a minute, the serpent made me do it.
mm-hmm.
And, Adam,
Yeah.
the woman made me
Yeah.
do it.
Point the finger.
We're all pointing the finger, and I think that, brings us to a hierarchical.
Yeah. Or the sin inside of us that we don't feel precious ourselves, and so we have to, fight for that status, or rather than just taking it as our God-given gift.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really loved, if we can go to Hebrews for a little bit, I really loved verse 1 of chapter 1. Long ago, at many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed, the heir of all things. And when I think about Hebrews and Psalm 8 together, we think about those major prophets like Moses and Joshua and Isaiah who foretold Jesus coming, and people listened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually Jesus came to earth and Jesus came to earth, and so certain people would listen and follow him, but we don't have Jesus on earth today. So what speaks to us? To me, getting in my Bible speaks to me, but what is it for you?
You know what it is for me? I just met with a family today who's had a very hard death in the family. And the number of people who have expressed love and care and concern for this family as they are deeply hurting, to me, that's where I see God. That's that reflection of God that I see.
Through people.
Yeah, that love is just, I mean, we talked about people wanting to put themselves up. Well, there are also times when people are just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, that's where I see Christ, is when people live the love
Live it
that
out.
He called us to do.
I also like the beginning of chapter 2 for Hebrews. Pay much closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it. So the message to me is stay rooted in your Bible. Stay rooted in the people that give you strength through Christ, in those actions. That just keeps me a little more grounded in my life. But I love that. Pay closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away. It's so easy to drift away.
Yes, it is.
So many things pulling at us.
Yeah.
So, I am the timekeeper.
We're already done?
We are past done.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So, with that, we hope that you have something that we've said has made you think and want to hear more. You can join us on Sunday at 9 a.m. for our service and see what Pastor has to say about with the sermon this week. We hope you have a good week, and please join us again next week.